Hello, gals, blokes, and all other folks. My name is Mortius. This is Jennifer Glatzofer, and today we are here with episode 3 of I Turned This Very Talented Individual / Performer into a D&D character. Jen, are you excited for this episode?
I'm feeling a lot of things. Excited, yes, is one of them, and completely terrified, because I don't know what's going on.
So, this is going to be a little bit different than the last 2 episodes, but if you are someone who has been enjoying this series without a lot of D&D knowledge, this might be the episode for you, because Jen is the first guest who is brave enough to jump headfirst into my weird brand new idea with zero knowledge of the game that I have drawn this idea from. I'm really curious, and I intentionally didn't ask it off camera, if you had to list, even if it's like 2 words, anything and everything you actually know about D&D or knew before you watched John's episode in preparation, what would you even be able to say?
Goblins.
Goblins.
Honestly,
those
I don't
are
know.
in fact in Dungeons and Dragons. I'm so proud of you. Yes, goblins. Goblins are a thing in Dungeons and Dragons. So good job there. Essentially, for those of you who might be clicking in for the first time, the goal of this is to do kind of a get-to-know-you interview, but in kind of an unconventional way, where we are going through and creating a character sheet the same way you would if you were preparing to play as a new character in the game Dungeons & Dragons, but we are filling in these stats as if it is actually Jen in this world. And we start up top with those 6 big stats. So to begin with, we have our strength. Now this is probably the most self-explanatory one on the whole list. This is just kind of your physical prowess, your athletics, everything like that, your ability to do those kind of strength-based things. Typically, 10 is going to be your baseline, and then the average person is going to range between like 6 to 16. Technically, it is 1 through 20, but 20 is like superhuman, and 1, if you have like a 1 in a stat, you literally like cannot do anything. You're like immobilized. So really, 6 to 16 is like gonna be where the average person lands. Where do you feel like you rank your strength?
I really just want to say that I'm a superhero, so I'm going to be 20. No, joking.
Secret bodybuilder.
Forget goblins. Okay, so strength. I think I would be quite high on this. I have given this some thought because, fun fact, I did, when I was 8 years old, I started karate, and I got my, I know, hold on, we're dropping stuff
I'm ready,
here.
I'm ready. This is why I love this format, because how else would we have come across this?
I know, why would I tell people this? It's my secret hidden thing, and now you're just taking it out from me. Yeah, then when I was, it was the May just before I turned 14, so I was late 13, I got my black belt.
Wow.
So, yeah, and then I carried on training and I was teaching a little bit after that. So I'm pretty strong in that sense. I did a lot of that. Obviously I don't really do it much anymore, so maybe my strength has like gone down a little bit, but let's just pretend I still like am that.
Okay.
No, it's still, I think I do have a lot of strength. I'm gonna go with, and I carry a lot of equipment as well with gigs, right? So I have a lot of this like stuff. Like,
okay, cool.
I like doing that.
That's what my question was going to be, because like someone in this system who is a little bit more of like an unarmed combatant is often going to be a dex-based roller, because it's more like the speed and dodging and things like that. So strength is a little bit more of the just straight up feats of athleticism. Less
Sorry, I'm
than,
just
like,
showing you my guns.
less than the ability to like make those quick strikes and things like that. But if you also do a lot of that like heavy lifting for gigs and things like that, then that absolutely falls in strength. So
yeah, like, you know, we're going up and down stairs and carrying a lot of things. So can I say like 14? Is that
that's
really
actually
high?
exactly where I was going to think based on what you were saying. I was going to say like 13 or 14. Probably, if we're being completely realistic, probably like 14 at that time, and then as you're saying, like it's gone down a little bit, probably 13 now, but we'll just say 14.
We'll say this is a strong day today. I'm feeling strong.
Strong
so
day. I love it. So dexterity, as I mentioned, is a little bit more of that litheness, that sort of physical prowess, but less in a strictly burly way and more in just your ability to, it can be for a class like a monk or something, it can be quick strikes, but for something like a rogue, it might also be your ability to be sneaky or your ability to dodge things quick. So it's kind of just that general agility stat. How agile do you feel like you are?
Is it also like my reaction time to not my reactions, like, hey.
That's a really good question. There is something we are going to hit called saving throws. And that is what you are going to use. Like, if something takes you by surprise, it would be like a dexterity saving throw or something like that. And so I would say, for example, if you felt like you weren't generally very graceful, but you were really good at quick reflex dodge, you could say like, oh, maybe a 11 dexterity, but I am going to get proficiency in the dexterity saving throws. That's kind of something you can be thinking ahead of.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Because I'm really good. I think I do have great awareness. Mm-hmm. A little story that happened with Joyrider, the band that I'm in. Mm-hmm. Bearing in mind I have a keyboard in front of me, the speaker, a monitor here. There was a light stand that was in front of us, and there's drunk people all the time dancing, right? And someone knocked through it, and I could see it, and I was singing. I could see it like leaning backwards, and I dodged the keyboard, dodged around. I caught it with one hand. It was a slow-mo motion, and I was so proud.
That's awesome.
I was like, whoa, did I do that? I did that. But then at the same time, I drop food on myself all the time, so... So there's that
is
too.
The answer. Lower dex stat, but thinking about that saving throw when we get there.
What you said makes so much sense. Let's go with 11 then.
All right, perfect. So like just the tiniest bit more than what like the baseline average person would be. Totally makes
just
sense.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. Constitution's an interesting one because Constitution is where we kind of dive into endurance and resilience kind of in the same breath. And so if there's like you need to hold your breath against an effect, that would be a Constitution saving throw. But at the same time, if you're like subject to poison or anything like that. So the two ways for this podcast so far that I've kind of rationalized it is your general endurance when it comes to like physical activities, breath support, and things like that. And then also your resilience, like I've made the joke in every episode so far that I have the spice tolerance and immune system of a Victorian-era child. And so my constitution is very low in that regard, even though I think I have some decent like breath support and things like that ups my con a little bit. My ability to, or inability to avoid getting sick or handle anything gross or spicy is so low that Constitution's easily a dump stat for me. How do you feel like for yours?
This is interesting because I feel like I need a lot of, like when we talk about breath support, I feel like that's good. That's a high thing on my list.
Course.
Being obviously a singer, this is something that I need, and I feel like that can keep going. I think it's changed in the terms of I used to be a long distance runner. I would not be doing that now.
Entirely
do not catch me doing. So that's different because it's like I've shifted with my breath support, I guess, and it's been way more focused on the singing side rather than actually running. Okay. If we think about like, I mean, just what you said about food or being ill and stuff, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I don't tend to get that ill, and and again, having said that, if I get ill and I can't talk, life's over. I'm the worst. I'm like, oh my god, my career's gone. What do I do?
So you get sick rarely, but when it hits you, it hits you?
I'm like, good grief, I'm on the sofa. But then I do keep working, so I guess it would be inside. I'm like, God, this is the worst, but I do keep going. So let's go with 13.
Okay, perfect. I love that. Yeah, I was thinking like 12, 13 range, so that absolutely makes sense to me. I love that. So those are all of our physical stats. These stats are generally considered kind of split in half between what are considered physical versus mental stats. So now we get to one that's kind of tricky to talk about, our mental stats, and like the ability to kind of self-evaluate this in a way that feels honest without being self-deprecating or braggadocious is a weird line to tread, but I am definitely curious where we land. How do you feel like your just general intelligence is?
General. I don't know. I feel like I'm very selective. Like if I'm interested, then I will do everything to learn more about it, and I love that. But if we're talking about, then it's probably gonna be quite average.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that totally makes sense. And as you might remember from the episode you watched, we're gonna get to skill proficiencies a little bit later, so you might be able to be like, oh, but I love history, So these stats definitely are a little bit more general, and just like the ability to kind of, both ability and interest in absorbing knowledge and kind of having knowledge. So
yeah, like when I'm really like interested in something, I will go full on research, and like I love learning about it. I mean, this is I recently I have got fish tanks, and now I'm loving learning about fish and like like the different fish and stuff. Like you could ask me anything, I'm like, I probably will know it now.
Well,
but if it's something I used to be
intelligence-based stat, I would say then. Because for me, even when I'm into something, it's still hard for me to absorb the information just because of how my brain works. Like, it has to be presented in a very specific way, and I kind of have to learn by doing, which, in my opinion, leans a little bit more into wisdom, which we'll talk about in a second. So, instead of thinking how many things you know, it's when you try to use that intelligence. If, in this game, you were gonna go for a study session, and you had to roll a d20 and add a number, like, do you feel like you would get to add a pretty decent number to it if you're trying to use it? Or, yeah, still?
Let's be honest, it's probably a mess still.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with 11.
All right, another 11. That's kind of what I was feeling with the way you were describing that. So if intelligence can be described as book smarts, wisdom is street smarts. This is one of the biggest, like, most common stats in the game is called perception. That is just your ability to notice things happening around you, to be aware of it. That is a wisdom-based stat. Survival, nature, these are wisdom-based stats. Wait. No. Nature is intelligence-based, which I've always thought is stupid because druids are nature-based, but that's an entire another conversation. Me and Luke already ranted about that.
I have no idea what
you
just said.
You're doing great. I'm rambling.
Goblins.
So, goblins. Wisdom is kind of that just like general awareness, that ability to notice things in your surroundings, that ability to just kind of process things around you in less of an academic way, but more in just a practical way. Practical smarts.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I'm quite high, which is why when you mentioned wisdom just before, I was like, okay, maybe I'm thinking of it a little bit different. Like, that makes sense in the intelligence, but for wisdom, I feel like I'm quite, I take everything in right there and then, I would say. I'm not very good. If someone plans a surprise party for me, I will not pick up on any signs. I don't know why, that always just goes straight through. Like, okay. I don't understand that, but everything else, I would say, like, I like taking, people watching, I guess. I like taking things in and kind of hearing from that. So I'm gonna go with 14, I think.
Cool.
Oh, you were in 12. Was I too high?
No, I think that's good. I was thinking like somewhere in the 13 range, but you know yourself better. Like you do that. That's the whole point of this, is that kind of self-evaluation there. Charisma. This is always a weird one for performers. So, the one thing I want to mention is performance is one of the skill proficiencies we can pick up later. So if someone feels like when they're on, they can shine, but when they're off, they kind of have to recede a little bit, that would probably be a lower charisma with performance proficiency. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
In that kind of regard, how do you feel like your general default charisma is?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question because, like, I'm an introvert through and through.
Okay.
So I need my time to breathe. And I with certain people, I feel like I don't even need to think, right? I'm just kind of like myself, and I'm just weird, and or like I'm just kind of But then I feel like there's a difference when I'm being professional Jen and I'm like talking. I have like it's a different kind of thing. So I would say in me every day, if I'm like, I don't know, I'm gonna go with a 12 is calling to me.
Okay. I think that's totally
that's a nice
reasonable.
number.
12 is a nice number.
So I feel like I'm just thinking about like if I would pop to the shops or something, like something so random.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what would I do? I'm still kind of like nice to people and I say all, and I, you know, I don't like it. This just popped in my head. But you know when like someone's walking in front of you and their bag's like not done up properly, I will tap on that person and be like, hey, your bag's not, do you know what I mean? Does that count as like something like nice?
No, absolutely. I think it totally does. That makes a ton of sense.
I think 12.
All right. And that's a perfectly reasonable, good stat array. I think that's really good. Let's talk saving throws. So, typically, we are going to get 2 saving throws on a character. And like we kind of talked about earlier, a saving throw is more of a responsive kind of thing. So in a weird way for me, and I don't actually think I've talked about this in prior episodes, I don't think I have a super high strength score just as I'm not that athletic, but like I can kind of like, I'm one of those people where my adrenaline really pushes into my muscles really well. So like if I notice something falling, or God forbid, like one of my students were building sets and something falls over onto them, like I have gone and like gotten a set piece off of them that I wouldn't have been able to lift normally. So I feel like my strength saves is decent. So it's kind of just a way to be like, if something in this category took you by surprise, if you were in an unexpected social situation, how do you bounce off that? If it's good, that might be a charisma save. If you're really good at trivia, that's like an int save. If you can eat something gross and not spit it out, that might be a con save. Different things like that. Just if something takes you by surprise, which of those 6 categories do you feel like you are going to be the most well-equipped to handle an unexpected situation?
Do you know what? I'm really good at riddles. I don't know why. I remember we went round to my partner's family home, and they've got, you know, they just had a riddle book and we started going through them, and I was getting all of them. So I don't know where it came from. I don't know where that knowledge came from. But so what would that fall under?
I think that would be int. I was trying to think if that would be int or whiz, because it is a little bit like perception based, like pulling them out, but I do still think like if I gave one of my players a riddle and they wanted to roll to try and get a hint, I would probably ask them for an intelligence based roll. So I think that would be a good int save.
Okay. But then now it's like, oh god, the pressure, I'm probably going to get it wrong now. But like, I do sometimes, it just like takes me by surprise.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Okay, we'll go with that then.
Okay.
Was that the intelligence one,
Intelligence
right?
save.
I think sometimes I get in my head when I'm talking to people and I feel like I need to be in like, and I'm like thinking about thinking. I don't know if that makes sense. Someone asks me a question and I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking, and then my brain goes blank. But I think actually doing my own podcast, I've become better at this. And I think in those high situations, like you just said, sometimes something just comes over you, like if it's adrenaline or something like that. So I think charisma can be a safe, a high, what was it called? A saving throw. Safe throw? Saving throw, there you go.
You're doing great. You're doing so good so far.
I'm learning so much. Yeah, I think let's go with charisma then.
Amazing. Then we get something called skills. So these are all within their own stat category. So you can see in the parentheses if something is dex-based, wisdom-based, intelligence-based, kind of down that list there. And you can approach this in kind of an interesting way. You can either offset something that's already low. So for example, like your lowest stat was that dex, but maybe you're like, hey, in general, I don't feel very dexterous, but I can be very sneaky, so I would take stealth. You can offset a negative, or you could say like, oh, if I'm like in an athletic situation, I like really excel in athletic situations, so even though that's already your highest stat, you could take athletics and boost it to like a +6, +7 to your rolls, like something insane like that.
Okay.
So If you have more or less jump out to you, the amount of skills you get is normally determined by your class. Obviously, I'm not doing it that way. In general, I think 4 is a good one to aim for, but this is a get to know you kind of thing. Not everyone has the same amount of skills in real life. So if you get to 3 and are like, yeah, those are all my strong suits, that's fine. And if you're going and you find like 7 or 8 things that you can talk about your experience in, there is no shame in that.
Imagine, yeah, I agree with all of them. I think all of them
every single one of them actually. Proficiency.
Every single.
Okay, so you're
acrobatics, yeah.
Okay, College of Lore Bard.
1 second.
Please continue.
No, okay, so I'll go through them and we'll see if anything like springs out.
Exactly.
And we'll see what that leaves me with point-wise. Okay, yeah, so no acrobatics. I'm sorry, I'm not going to randomly backflip right now.
Fair.
Okay, hold on. I want to see what... So, insight...
Insight is kind of the ability to just like pick up on cues. So like usually if you're playing D&D and you are trying to figure out if someone is lying to you, you are going to roll insight against their deception. So if I'm like playing a bad guy trying to lie to them, I'm going to roll deception, they're going to roll insight, and if they get higher, they know my guy's lying. If they get lower, I'm like, no, you think they're telling the truth. So insight's kind of reading people, figuring out what their intentions are, if they're being truthful or not.
It's so funny. I think little Jen probably wanted to be really high with insight, but actually life's too short. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think, because I thought first, but now I think...
and what's nice is wisdom is already one of your higher stats, so you're already getting a decent boost to that one, so...
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, I'm going to say performance then.
Of course.
That makes sense.
I think all 3 episodes so far have. I don't think anyone on this podcast isn't going to give themselves performance proficiency. It just makes sense.
Even if I didn't know what... It just makes sense.
Yeah.
That's just gonna be there. I think survival would be good. I know that's a wisdom one, but I know it's already high, but I think that makes... I think I am quite... I think I'm quite strong in that.
What kind of gives you that? Do you have like scout experience or camping experience or anything like that? Like what do you feel like gives you that sort of survival capabilities? You a doomsday prepper secretly?
Yeah, no, I'm actually so prepared. No, I think I haven't done anything in terms of scouts or anything, but I loved going camping with like my family and doing things like that. But also if I'm thinking about like when I am ill, those little times, I do carry on working. I do carry on doing things. I do look after my body and do listen to my body and rest, but I do keep going. I don't let things kind of stop me. I guess that's the self-employedness in me as well.
Totally.
I just have to keep going, but I have that in the back of my mind. So that's why I think that would be a skill I would have. Okay, let's have a look. What's...
Kaylee, mark that skill as endurance because that was a really good answer, but it's not actually what the survival skill is used for. So just put it on the sheet as endurance and we'll just make up a skill. Or resilience, there we go.
Oh yeah, that would make more sense.
That's not technically what survival... I mean, it makes sense. You don't know the game. That's good for me to know. So survival in that scheme actually makes a lot of sense, and I really love that answer. In-game, survival is more like survival skills, like outdoorsy, like the ability to get water, make fire, things like that, like survival things. But I still really like your answer, so we'll count it. We'll just call it something else.
It still makes... we'll just change it.
Survival asterisk.
Yes. What's the third one? Oh, sorry, to hit my mic then. What's the third one? Arcana?
Oh, Arcana. That one's going to rarely be useful because that's your magic skill. That's just your awareness of being able to use magic. Okay. So, like, in the rare case that I get someone on who actually, like, appreciates like pagan and witchery and things like that. Like I'm curious what Tegan has to say. Like I'm sure I'll get 1 or 2 interesting people who would actually give themselves Arcana, but in general, that one's gonna apply a little less in the real world.
Sure, gotcha. It's really funny how a lot of the wisdom ones are actually calling out to me, like animal handling kind of makes sense because I'm if I could, that would be my job. Like
I love that.
Like I would love just to spend time with. Like they just make me so happy. So, but then that's like a wisdom thing. So it's kind of it's interesting that those are the ones that are calling out to me. You can build
a very jack of all trades kind of character where nothing is really going to be able to really take you by surprise or really be not very good. Like that is a way to build a character, just kind of like, hey, no matter what happens, I'm gonna be decent at it. But then there's other ways to do it. It's usually called kind of min-maxing, where you're bringing some things really low so that you have the points to bring other things really high. So you could be someone who in a lot of situations might not be useful, but as soon as you're like dropped somewhere where you need to like tame the wilderness and take care of yourself, suddenly you're like, that's my job. I'm here. I'm the party wisdom person. So if you feel like you are min-maxed into those wisdom things, that's a way to build a character, and don't feel shame for that.
Okay. Okay, and last question. What does sleight of hand, is that like kind of, what does that cover? Sleight
of hand is like thievery, and like if you're doing like a sleight of hand trick is like a magic trick, or like the ability to pickpocket, or even like spellcasters. Most spells have a physical component. So if you want to like cast a spell on someone without them noticing, I usually make them roll a sleight of hand check to be like try to like quickly do like their symbol while like disguising it as like scratching their nose or something. It's like the ability to conceal what your hands are doing in a sneaky kind of way.
Yeah, that's not me. It's like, yeah, that's not me. Okay, so what did I go for? I went for performance.
You've got animal handling, performance, survival, but resistance, endurance. Yes.
Okay. Slash. Yeah. And what would nature cover? Is that just like being in the nature, or?
Yeah, just the ability to kind of, so that would be like the ability to like identify animals, because that one's more of the intelligence-based one. So wisdom is like, can you make a fire? Can you protect yourself? That's the survival. Then intelligence-based nature is more like, can you identify like which berries are safe and which ones aren't? Do you know the names of every mushroom and what they do? Do you recognize animals? Do you know the trees? I actually would have a really low intelligence stat, but I would take nature proficiency because I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, so I had to learn how to identify, like, you know, what kind of animal dropping it is to know if it's like bear territory or something safer or anything like that. Like, I have those kinds of knowledge base, even though my intelligence skills generally kind of low.
Okay, I think my fourth one, I resonate with the investigation one. I think, again, when I am interested in something, I want to go further, and I think that, like, if it doesn't, then I probably am not bothered and it would go past me, but in that specific sense, I think investigation would make sense because I want to know more.
Okay, that absolutely makes sense, and I love that sort of insight there. Insight. So that is kind of our stats and skills section there. That's the big bulk sort of at the beginning. I really like those answers. Those are fantastic. Then we get into something that's a little bit trickier. But so far, we are 2 for 2 for this question, leading down some really interesting paths. Weapon proficiencies. Because I feel like every performer has some kind of story of like, oh, I remember when I had to do Romeo and Juliet and we learned actual fencing techniques, give me a rapier. Or like Luke Holt, I learned in his episode, is really good at, like, to the point where he would teach classes on it, he's axe thrower. And so I gave him throwing axes because he will get he'll go to those ranges, get targets, and embed it in the target every time. So he got throwing axes. So just what's your weird skill that you picked up either from just a childhood fixation or a weird role you had to learn for? Like, are there any weapons in just an array of medieval weaponry that you feel like you could pick up and wield better than someone would expect you to?
Yeah. Do you know what? I wish my answer for this was archery, because that's something that I wish I could do when I was younger. Every time I saw it, like, you know, when you go to those holiday parks and there's a group of people just like, I'm like, whoa, I want to do that. Like, I wish, but it's
that
not
would be Mortimus's surprise answer, actually. If I ever brought her on and people were going to be surprised by something, she would take archery proficiency, because that is something she was into for a while.
Amazing. Oh, that's so cool. Like, I love that. The axe throwing, the fencing would be cool as well. Okay, so obviously karate being my strong point there. The bow we used to use, and nunchucks.
Okay.
So I'm good with nunchucks. Yeah, so those would be, are they in the medieval?
Both of those are options. There is actually unarmed strike proficiency, so that is just unarmed. And then there are bow staffs.
Okay, yeah, that's me as well.
And so like the bow staffs, that is, or actually, bow staffs is Pathfinder. In 5e, it's called quarter staffs, but it's basically the same thing. I just had to remember my things to have it written down. So yeah, that makes sense. I know exactly what class I'm kind of leaning towards for you, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I'm really curious how this section is going to flow as someone who doesn't know anything, because this is going to kind of be like you just have to describe the kind of thing you would want to do, and I'll have to go through my mental wiki. But if you did have the ability to cast some kind of just magic, some kind of spell in your day-to-day life, and you had to pick just like the type of thing, whether it was like, just describe something you would want to do, to whether it's like, I would want to conjure an animal, I would want to like calm someone down, I would want to heal a wound. Like, what's like one weird kind of low-level supernatural ability that you feel like you would want to have? One or two.
I would wish for like queuing just to go down. Does that make sense? So like lines for queues, or queues at tills, or like traffic jams, you know, like just people go. Like Thor, actually. No, hold on, that's a bit too evil. No, but like, you know, like, could that be something?
Yeah,
like, so that I can get to the front?
If I can think of any kind of specific spell that would do that, I feel like that would definitely be some kind of higher level. I'm gonna look into it off screen and still have Kaylee put one in that I think would allow it, but that, I can't think of one like immediately that jumps out as something that would let you do that. But man, that's a fun answer. Ooh. I mean, something as simple as like friends or something would probably allow you to be like, oh, can I just step in front of you? Like something like that to like kind of have that like charisma crowd control based spell. But I'm wondering if there's something more specific. I'll look into it.
Okay. Yeah, you know, not that like I love people and everything, but like if I got places to be, I got places to be. So.
I get it. No, I love that. There might even be some kind of like time manipulation spell down at the end that might help with that, but that would be really high level. So I'd have to really look for that. I'm not seeing anything immediately. Okay. Now we get to the penultimate part. We are actually getting close to the end, but this is one of the trickiest and most introspective parts of the whole thing, because we get to our personality box. And so we have ideals, bonds, and flaws. Ideal says, describe one ideal that drives your character. Your ideals are the things that you believe in most strongly, the fundamental moral and ethical principles that compel you to act as you do. Ideals might answer any of these questions. What are the principles you will never betray? What would prompt you to make sacrifices? What drives you to act and guides your goals and ambitions? So, having looked upon some suggestions, I have come to the conclusion. Okay, so I like the idea of manifestation and believing that, like, not that if I keep positive, everything will happen, but just like if I keep working at something, then something will happen along that, you know, if I keep the amount of doors open that I can handle, you know, and step into the, then I can keep, you know, then something will happen that is meant to be. So that's why I'm kind of leaning to the, you know, I trust that my, my action will guide me to where I need to be. I like that. I feel like that's what drives me every day. So I think that would be cool. So I think the wording for that one we'll put on the sheet would be, would you say, I trust that my actions will lead me to what I want? Does that feel good? Yeah, to lead me to like my path, my journey. Yeah, lead me to my path. Perfect. I love that. That's a great answer. bond can be kind of similar to ideals at first, but it's more tangible. It is like a person, place, or thing. Bonds might answer any of these questions. Whom do you care most about? To what place do you feel a special connection? What is your most treasured possession? This ties you to things from your background. So it might be, again, just like a person, place, or thing that you're like, this is what pushes me.
I feel like I am very, like, loyal and trustworthy to the people that like mean a lot to me, right? And that's like a big kind of motivational point. Not motivation, but like as in I would do anything for the people that kind of mean the most to me. I feel like I've got their back 100%, and I want to be there to offer insight or like advice if it's needed for a specific situation. If they don't, then I will be there silently, like, you know,
so
waving my flag of friendship, like,
I'll do anything to protect my closest group of friends.
Yeah, I think that strongly like fits me. Yeah,
I love that. It's almost did you ever read Percy Jackson?
I actually didn't. I actually got like my sister like loves them.
Me too.
Yeah, but
very minor kind of character spoiler, not like a plot spoiler or anything like that, but in it, they kind of explore the idea that most Greek heroes had what is called a fatal flaw, like Odysseus was his ego, as you know. So, with like a fatal flaw and things like that, Percy's is the loyalty. It's the fact that he would let the world burn to save Percy, or to save Grover and Annabeth, and like that's something that seems like a good trait, but could still be used against him, that kind of thing like that. So I find that really cool as a bond, is just like, I'll do anything for those people. And then, here's some fun and dangerous introspection. Flaws. Your character's flaw represents some vice, compulsion, fear, or weakness. In particular, anything that someone else could exploit to bring you to ruin or cause to act against your best interests. And so this doesn't have to be like, so it can be entirely tangible, like I just am debilitating fear of this animal, and if someone used it against me, it would take me out. Or it can be much more cerebral, like the top one is I judge others harshly and myself even more severely, if someone's a very sort of judgmental person. I would say like one of mine is just like the need to prove myself. Like I am always like, if I feel like that is something that I would consider one of my flaws, which again isn't inherently negative, but is if you push it too far. And that's what a lot of these flaws are. Like I put too much trust in those who wield power. I'm inflexible, like those kinds of things, you know what I mean? So I'm curious what you feel like you would land in for that.
I feel like I like to see the good in people, and I like, you know, again, it's not, I don't feel like I'm a fake positive person. You know, some people are like, and it's like, whoa. Like, either we need to chat, or like, is everything okay? Or like, you know, what's going on, kind of thing. But like, I feel like I'm realistic in that sense. But then at the same time, I want to make sure I surround myself with good people, happy people, like, you know, kind people. But I also like, I feel like I expect might be the wrong word, but like I feel like everyone should be nice. Why wouldn't you want to be nice and kind? So sometimes when people aren't, maybe I do put my trust in the wrong people. Do you know what I mean? Like I kind of maybe
I assume the best in people and trust too easily.
Trust too. I'd say that's like, that would make sense in this setting. Like I feel like. And as soon as that goes, I'm like, you're cut off, goodbye.
No,
but like, 100%. I feel like that's like my first instinct, right? My first instinct is kind of like, oh, I get like a nice, happy feeling kind of thing. I trust this person. That's what I want. Doesn't necessarily always happen.
Cool. Well, good job. That's the hardest section. We are now to the very end. We get to go to the top of the character sheet. And I am going to take these in actually opposite order. So we are going to start at the top right with something called alignment. So honestly, I think I'm probably just going to end up using a different chart for each episode because I keep forgetting to save them. And also, it kind of depends on the person, their already existing knowledge of D&D. So I am going to give you this one we have up on screen right here. Typically, in D&D, we are going to have lawful, neutral, chaotic, and good, neutral, evil. It would be a 3x3 chart. I think that's a little bit too limiting, and so I like one that's a little bit more structured like this. And so the sort of left to right scale is lawful, social, neutral, rebel, chaotic, and then from top to bottom, it's going to be good, moral, neutral, impure, evil. If you need me to define anything or how it would imply into a TTRPG system, I totally can, but I want to hear kind of your thoughts.
So this is just what I'm leaning towards, what I feel like I'm most
what
fit
you feel
in, right?
like, exactly. The alignment
Okay.
is what is going to generally drive a lot of your actions, a lot of your motivations, and very rarely might even drive some things you're capable of doing. Like there are some spells or enchanted items that are like, you can only attune to this if you have a good alignment. If it's like a divine artifact, you can't attune to it if you are not morally good. But in general, it's just kind of what you are. Who you
Okay. Who I am. It's really interesting. This is such a fun, like, obviously me being, like, don't know anything about D&D,
Yeah.
but this is actually really cool.
I'm so
Like,
glad.
this-
I'm so
this-
glad. I was really worried it wouldn't work
You know,
well with someone who doesn't know the system, but I'm glad this is working great.
because I'm like, cool, what am I? And it's interesting because it's like, this might change regularly.
Yeah.
Or it might, like, also I think what people might think I am, like, I've been told I'm vanilla. I've been told I go for the vanilla. So people would put me in the neutral, but neutral does not sit, like, it don't feel right for me. I don't think I'm anywhere there. Like, no. So I don't think I'm in the social category at all.
Okay.
And I don't think I'm in the rebel. I just don't have that. I just don't know where I'd fit.
Okay.
So, which leaves me with lawful or chaotic. Chaotic feels fun.
No, I love that. Well, so one thing I'll say is this isn't necessarily 5 completely different things. It is supposed to be a spectrum. So like lawful would be like the laws of the land. Social would be like the laws of the community. Like very community based. Not necessarily social as in extroverted, but social as in like I will put aside my own things for the sake of community. And then rebel would be like, ooh, maybe you're a little bit more rebellious against like the social norms. And then chaotic is like absolute anarchy.
I mean, yeah, I'm probably the least chaotic person. But I quite like the sound of that. Okay. Maybe I think...
Do you want to come up with your own first, or do you want to hear my thoughts and reasoning and see if you agree or disagree?
Oh. No, let me hear what you have to say, and then I'm going to... If I disagree, I'm allowed to say that I disagree.
Yes, 100%. Purely based on what I already know about you, the interactions we've had, the answers you've already given. I know you said it didn't jump out to you, but I think it's because you were mixing it up with like extroversion and charisma. I actually feel like social lands with you really well, because I don't feel like you're going to be all the way in the lawful area, but I definitely feel like you're a very communal based person. I feel like you're someone who would give back, who's very involved in their friend group, who's not just going to, like chaotic or rebel, they're just going to run off on their own. You know what I mean? Like they're going to do their own thing. I feel like you're going to stick with your people. And so I'm going like social good, social moral. Somewhere one of those 2 boxes is kind of where I was feeling for you.
Yeah. Because it's so interesting, and I completely agree with what you said. Like, I feel like in that situation, I'm there 100%, and I will, like, but then I am such an independent person in the sense of, like, if it makes sense, like, before I would go with the group and like, you know, if we're doing something, I would be like, yeah, and like maybe not even voice my opinions that much. Hence why I wrote Voice of My Own, because I was like, I need to, like, you know, I was kind of like going with the crowd. I didn't know where I fit in. Whereas now I feel like I'm much more certain, and I will be like, I don't like that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do this, which is why I was kind of like, maybe I am leaning a bit more here. Yeah, I mean, let's rule out evil. I'm not evil.
Honestly, I hate to say, because like I want to be so clear and say that like this isn't a bad thing. It doesn't necessarily, like, people who are like, my character is true neutral and that means they're boring, don't understand the alignment system. Like, that can be interesting to not feel yourself pulled in any direction and always be trying to kind of keep yourself grounded. So if we're defining neutral as vanilla, I understand why you didn't want to draw that way, but if you feel like sometimes you hear, and you like kind of try to keep that balance, honestly, somewhere in that like neutral moral zone might be where we land.
But that's what I mean. I think a lot of people would, like, if I would probably ask like some of my closest friends, they'll be like, you're probably neutral moral. Like, that's what makes sense because of what you kind of just said.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like like they have the mum role.
Yes.
I kind of take that. I kind of take that, and I've kind of wanted to step away from it because I didn't want to. I'm like, no, I've got a little bit of like, come on, edge. But like, I am kind of, I do have like a Mary Poppins bag. Everything will be in there wherever we go,
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. That's just me.
I organize a lot of the like set lists for the band. I'm the one that prints them off. I write, I do the emails. So I am that kind of person. Okay, fine. Put me neutral moral. Neutral
moral, I think, does make sense. And like I said, a good player can make any alignment interesting. People who think true neutral are just the boring everymen aren't doing it right, and people who think lawful good or boring paladins also aren't doing it right. Any alignment can still be played anyway, so don't think that we're calling you vanilla with that. Background's gonna be an interesting one. Typically a background is going to be what gives you like your proficiencies, such as like kits, like thievery kits, cooking kits, sewing kits, things like that. It's going to give you some extra skill proficiencies. It's kind of just like what you came from that gives you what you can do now. And so like, one of them is literally called like street urchin, and that gives you like stealth and insight and things like that. Another one is wanderer, that gives you the survival and things like that. And so I could totally pull up a list of those things, but I'm also just curious if you like kind of had to summarize this sort of upbringing that contributed the most to where you are. Where would that kind of land? And some examples I can give you is John Mattison chose Acolyte because he grew up very involved in the church, and that's informed a lot of who he become. Luke Holt chose Wanderer because he's traveled to a lot of places. He's lived in a lot of places, not for very long. He feels like that's really informed him. I would probably pick something like just like small town grown, because I feel like the fact that I grew up in that sort of community did really affect a lot of what I became. So where would you feel like you align there?
Are there specific words, or should I just like speak and then we'll see where I fit?
There are some specific ones, but backgrounds, I would say, is one of the most commonly. It's called homebrew, where you create new ones to add into the system. Yeah. And so some people will make like homebrew spells and weapons. That gets way more complicated. Almost every game I've run in some way has homebrew backgrounds, because if you create a really interesting backstory and then it's like, are you a street urchin, a soldier, or a religious? And it's like, none of the above. Yeah. That's too limiting. Yeah. I think the vanilla backgrounds are too limiting, so you can kind of just pick whatever.
Okay. I have a really, I'm half Dutch, half Italian, so I say my upbringing's very, like, I have such a close, big family.
Okay.
Like, that was my upbringing. Everything that I can remember, holidays was always either going to Italy, Holland, occasionally we go elsewhere, but family is a huge thing for me. Sharing meals, sharing Christmases, sharing things like that. So what would that fall?
I would probably just say like background, maybe just like communal. Like just like the ability, like the sort of skills and morals and everything came from being part of something big and family based like that. I would say background
and also
kind of communal.
Yeah, and also like I'm the eldest grandchild, so I looked after a lot of my younger grandchildren and played with them and like
I'm
danced
the
with them,
exact
sang
same
with them,
way.
whatever.
I'm also an eldest grandchild of a ton of cousins and siblings.
Yeah, so many. So yeah, that obviously that I think that's a tight comparison to me wanting to kind of look after and having that mum kind of feel. I guess that makes sense, like, you know, because that's what I kind of known growing up. I've always wanted to make sure everything's running in order, make sure no one's like crying or kind of looking after, like, you know, being silly with people, being goofy. That's, you know, making everyone happy.
And as someone who brought my own, like, very distinct, like, two-culture family in with in-laws with my own wife, I am really curious. I've seen a lot of both cultures kind of in her. Like, how do you feel like that split heritage? Like, how much do you feel like they coalesce? How much do you feel like they kind of butt heads? How do you feel like it's kind of informed who you've become and what kind of things you like, what kind of things you cook, what kind of things you prioritize? Like, I'm really curious about that.
I mean, I cook pasta, like from my nonna, from my mama.
I am on my way already.
Like I'm cooking. I've got the step on. It was always like a home cooked meal, and we always ate together. That was something that, like, you know, I think the first time I ate out or had a takeaway was when I went to university. It was always, that was the thing that would happen. I think a big difference between the Dutch and Italian would be how, like, the Dutch are really chilled. They just want to party. Whereas Italians, there's, you know, if you think about stereotypes, they're a bit more like strict on it. So it was always like, let me know when you're coming back home. When are you coming back? So I kind of, when my friends maybe were going out, I'd be like, no, we've got family. I'm like, okay. And I look back at it and it's like, I'm really happy because obviously I got to spend so much time. I have such a close-knit family. I love my family. I think
I love that.
I wouldn't change that for the world. But at the time, obviously, it's like, my friends are going out. I want to go out.
No, I totally get what you mean. And yeah, that makes sense. I really appreciate that answer. Like I said, I'm just always interested in that kind of thing because, like, I grew up in such a cultural melting pot that really didn't have a lot of roots in its culture. I grew up just very like European history, American now. Like, I don't really have a lot of that. So I'm seeing my wife come in and it's like Filipino Scottish, and like that influence is like very present in her life, in her cultures, in her influence, and it's really interesting. So I appreciate you sharing that insight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so proud, like, of my Dutch and Italian, and it's there's two very different as well, like obviously both European, but the languages as well. And I like that I learned to speak them from a young age. Like at home, it was always like,
oh, that's amazing.
You know, dinners on the table was always in 3 different languages. It's like eten is klaar, or like stop the I can't think of anything now, but like the table, like it was always ete pronto, like, you know, it would be like the two of the, you know, food is ready, but like a split of the 2 languages calling up. So that was always kind of just normal.
Yeah.
And like going to my grandparents, especially my Italian, who know a very limited amount of English, that was normal as well. Like I would just be speaking Italian. Then you hear about someone at school like, oh, I went to grandma, they were talking, and I was like, whoa, like it's just so different. And I love that because we can learn so much. But that's just the norm for me. Like, I don't know any different.
Wow. I love that. I love that a lot. That's a really, really cool answer. This is going to be intriguing from a not familiar with the system kind of thing. So, obviously, this is the one that's going to technically deviate the most. Unless I have a really, really interesting episode in the future, pretty much everyone's going to be human. Like, that's kind of just what the reality of a podcast of real-life people is. But if we choose to bend the rules a little just for this one thing and say, let's say you wake up in this fantasy world and you are transported into one of these things, and it's not going to necessarily change your stats or anything like that. Like, if you picked, like, with your higher strength, lower dex, if you picked an elf, you'd be a weirdly buff elf. But that's okay. It's not gonna, like, inform and change any of the things we just talked about. Purely cosmetic. If you feel like you woke up in a fantasy world, looked into a mirror, and, like, whatever feels the most like, yeah, that's the, like, cool fantasy version of Jennifer Glatzofer. Do you still feel like it would be human, or would it be something else within that?
Whoa, what's that bottom one?
It's called a tiefling.
Oh.
And if tieflings interest you, you should consider checking out the Gilded Tiefling, this delicious tea company that I am sponsored by. Look at that! Thank you for giving me the, thanks for giving me the thing. Yeah, there are a lot of actual options if we start going into, like, some of the weirder races. Okay. So if you have any, like, things from other worlds where you're like, ooh, could I be like a, sort of like the same kind of thing that like this from Lord of the Rings is, I can probably find one, or you can kind of just pick from the generic 10. Okay, I'll have while she's picking, use code Mortius for Mortius, for $2 off whatever the highlighted tea of the month is, because this probably will come out after June, so it won't be this tea anymore. I brewed Enchanted Oasis because it's the one for June, and then I was looking at my upload schedule, and I'm like, this episode's probably coming out in August anyway.
I'm kind of like straying away from Elf because I feel like I know. Well, not that I know. I don't know much about this actually, so I'm just learning right now. I'm quite liking a Goliath.
Ooh. I love that. That's such an interesting answer.
Just because, like, I want to be tall.
I love it.
Can I just say that? Is that fine?
No, absolutely. And so, yeah, like powerful build, that kind of fits some of the things you're saying. But then, and honestly, that's Goliaths are distant descendants of giants and seek heights above those reached by your ancestors. Like that kind of idea of like looking at the people who came before you. They're very kind of cultural in that way. Goliaths do have that kind of history with their ancestors. So the ability to look at where you've come from and both respect it yet seek something higher, that's such an unexpected answer for, honestly, with respect to my previous hosts, like John picking half elf and Luke picking half orc, that's like, yeah, obviously big burly Luke is gonna be half orc, but Jennifer Glatzel for Goliath is the most interesting race answer that I've gotten so far, and I am genuinely in love with it. That's so cool.
Great.
Oh my gosh, what a great answer. Oh, I'm so excited to see how this all comes out, especially as we get to the final one, our class. And so, with classes, this is going to kind of be the types of things that you are good at, the way you fight, the types of spells, what kind of ways you would control a battlefield or the things around you. Based on what you said, I definitely have one that jumps out at me, but I also feel like it doesn't 110% fit. And so I feel like what's interesting is I feel like you are definitely going to be someone who might be pulled to what is called a multi-class. The ability to, at a higher level. So like, for example, let's say you get to level 3 in a class, and then you get to level 4. Let's say you're a level 3 fighter, and you get to level 4. You could either become a level 3 fighter, or you could become a level 3 fighter, level 1 barbarian. And get the skills from both. And so, just to kind of help guide your brain, I definitely think one of yours is monk. With your kind of like self-centered, like that kind of like self-centeredness, self-assuredness, the ability to kind of manifest things in the world. They even like focus on their internal reservoirs of power to create extraordinary, even supernatural effects, like that sort of internal drive and resilience. But also, monks are the ones that are going to get the unarmed combat, the bow staffs and things like that. So I do think monk would be a little bit, but monks also typically are very just like, yes, I am peaceful and quiet and monk-like. And I'm like, don't know how much that aligns. So I feel like you would be primarily levels in monk, but I'm curious if there's any of the other ones that kind of draw your brain in.
I think that I'm leaning towards Bard as my second one.
Goliath Monk Bard is unironically one of the coolest character concepts I've ever heard. Like, I've made the little joke at the end of each episode that I'm like, my perfect reality is someone wanting to like do a one-shot where they actually play as each of these things. I want to play this one. Like, a bow staff, unarmed combat, strength-based Bard Monk is phenomenal. And also, having like decent charisma, strength, whiz, like that fits actually. The only thing that's a little weird, quote unquote, is having a low dex score as a monk because they're very sort of dexterous, but it's a little harder to build. But if you know what you're doing, you can build a decent strength-based monk. So it's a little unconventional of a way to build a monk, but strength-based Goliath monk bard, that's really interesting. And you know what's great about that? Strength-based monks usually hit harder, but are worse at like being able to dodge or use like their acrobatics things. But with Bard, you could take spells like Jump or Long Strider or Teleport, so you could supplement poor dodging skills. So you could like magic in big Bard, like big strength-based monk punch, magic out. Oh my god, I want to play this character. You have unironically made probably the coolest character of any of them yet. This is awesome, and I desperately want to actually see them become something now. So
I feel like they're so cool.
It's so cool. On screen now, you can see Jennifer Glatzofer, the Bard Monk Goliath. What a badass build. This is so cool. That might be the first full swear that I'm going to let slip through my family filter, and I think this episode deserves it. That is truly just a badass character. That is incredible. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me. This ended up, again, I was so nervous how the flow would work with someone who wasn't as familiar with the game. It was so fun and ended up with my favorite character sheet of any of them. So before we hop out of this one, Jen, tell them what you got going on, what they should check out, with the knowledge this probably isn't coming out till early August.
Gotcha. First of all, I have had a wonderful time here. And I feel like I am going to dive into this some more and continue knowing more, because this was exciting. Thank you so much for having me.
Years and years, I have wanted to run a reactor performer D&D game, and for a while my dream one was, just because I knew they were into it, was Cesar de la Rosa, Adam Rupp, and charismatic voice was my dream roster. But I feel like now with this podcast I'm actually gonna accumulate, and eventually we totally should do a one shot of the people who have been on this podcast, maybe even with their character. Actually, that's such a sick idea. Anyways, tell the people what you have.
Wait, I can be an actual real life Goliath.
You can be the Goliath bard in the one shot. That'd be awesome. Yes. Oh. Anyway, so sorry. Tell the people what you got going on.
Yeah, so I have recently released my debut album, Echo, so it's out everywhere. Please go and stream it and share it and just sing along to it. Thank you. And if you want to post any covers, tag me or whatever. But yeah, that's currently what I'm just focusing on, writing more music, hopefully releasing more, hopefully eventually a Christmas song. That'd be really cool. But yeah, otherwise check me out over on YouTube. Obviously, I'm continuing to post over there, but yeah, all good stuff.
And if you have somehow missed it, if you're on this channel and this episode, I'm guessing you already know it, but if you've missed it, Jen also has some incredible reactions on her channel, including the entirety of Epic the Musical, so definitely consider checking that out. I want to thank Jen one more time for being here. I want to thank the patrons scrolling on either side of the screen for making videos like this happen, and as always, gals, blokes, and all other folks, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Bye.